Hey, hey, hey. Welcome back to Trek Chat, a podcast brought to you by Trek on the Tube. I am Sean, your usual host, and today I am joined by two wonderful guests, two fantastic guests from over in the UK. TrekLad, returning guest, how you doing?
Hey, I'm back.
How you doing? Are you doing good?
I'm doing good. Yeah, life
Alright.
is good. You know, it's always a good day when we're talking Star Trek.
Alright, and my second guest is TrekCatCatCat. That's right, the Triple C. How you doing?
Doing well. I was going to turn around and say effing awful, but I won't. But no, I'm doing all right. Talking Trek is always fun.
And today we have a bit of a theme going on. We're going to talk about Starfleet and the Federation, and I suppose how well they respect the customs of their allies. And you know, it's very human-centric to say how well they respect the customs of aliens, but I guess that's it. Alien cultures, there's a lot of them in Star Trek. Are they always respected in Star Trek and in Starfleet? So I could hit you straight off with like a Beverly Crusher thing.
Do
Because
it.
this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine that Starfleet Boy will probably hate me for mentioning this, but I every time someone dies or something happens, Beverly Crusher never seems to want to respect the cultures and the customs of those people, because she's all like, "I got to do an autopsy," but it's like, "But this species doesn't permit that," and she's like, "Yeah, whatever. We need to do an autopsy because we need to investigate and what have you."
Is
And
there an instance where an alien says it's against our customs to perform an autopsy?
yeah, there is. There's like one episode specifically where she suspects foul play. So I guess there's like some sort of justification.
Yeah.
She goes against everybody. Picard says you can't do anything, and she just says, screw you, I'm going to do it anyway.
But I mean, like, yeah, she's going against, she's flying in the face of custom and also disobeying direct orders. But didn't she turn out to be right?
Oh yeah, I mean the episode makes
But
a good
that's
point of
besides
showing
the
you that
point.
she was right. But it is. That's the thing. That's the thing. Like even if there was foul play involved and what have you, she went against the customs of this specific species.
Because she knows better.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess you have to kind of weigh up the ethical dilemma and also her experience as a chief medical officer and as a professional that's been put in a position on the flagship of the Federation to make those kind of decisions. Obviously, if she'd been wrong, then in a real world scenario, she would have been probably asked to tender her resignation. But she got it right. So it's a balancing scale, isn't it? Because, you know, yes, she's essentially committed a violation of her kind of ethical routines, protocol. But she, if I remember the episode correctly, she was responsible for saving some stuff. So I'm going to give her a round of applause. I'm going to let her off. I know I'm probably going to get told off, but I'm going to let her off.
In a real world, I think she still would have got a severe reprimand. But it seemed that she just got nothing. She just, aren't I wonderful? Aren't I right? And just get on with it.
Do you know what it kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of, so we get it all the time in Discovery when Michael Burnham pushes up against authority and takes essentially the law into her own hands and does what she feels is right. She has gut instincts and gut reactions to things, right? And that kind of tenacious spirit and attitude is celebrated in Discovery. It's also, and I'm going to be talking about this like pretty soon. It reminds me a lot, and I know we're going off in a bit of a tangent here, but bear with me, guys. Right? Is this entire attitude is very reminiscent of Jack Bauer in 24, right? So stay with me, guys, right? In 24, everybody's like, no, Jack, you can't do that. No, you're in trouble. Take him into custody. No, what are you doing, you crazy man? There's so many times over the course of just one day, and there were like 8 seasons or something, wasn't there? Okay, but how many times was he actually right? Even when he was essentially, I mean, you can debate his ends justify the means attitude. But he essentially saved the day on multiple occasions, saving America from nuclear devastation and whatever, what have you not. I think he saved London at one point as well. But essentially, he's doing these things, he's pushing up against authority, he's breaking rules, he doesn't really care about the ethical quandary. But he's getting the job done and he is saving lives. And at the end of it all, he's usually celebrated and then, I don't know, spoilers, captured or tortured or something. So it's very, very similar. It's very, very similar. And I always see it whenever people are criticising Burnham and they're basically saying, well, Burnham's this ridiculous Mary Sue and she should be reprimanded and demoted and all this stuff. She just breaks the rules. Those usually are the same people that say, oh yeah, Jack Bauer's my favourite character. They're like the same thing.
I think you take that though. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what. I've just finished Captain's Oath, the book, and it's quite good in there where they actually say, "You are the captain. Basically, you are the rules." Yes, Starfleet has all these rules and regulations, but the captain is the person at the top. They choose to bend the rules. They choose to break the rules, they choose to uphold the rules, but it's the captain's choice, and because they are that one single person in charge of the ship. And I think that's probably going to be interesting to see if Discovery does that with Burnham. She's done it as the commander and everything. Is she going to be the same as the captain?
Yeah, she absolutely will. Here's my prediction, right? Basically, Burnham is going to push up against the admirals now. Like, we already saw it last season. Where, she was up against Vance on a number of occasions. I reckon Vance is going to be an ally, a supporter after what we saw at the end of the season. There's going to be another admiral or another couple of admirals that are like, oh, we don't think what Burnham's doing is right. And she's going to be like, screw you guys, I'm going to go and do it anyway. And then something happens. We've seen Discovery kind of be pounded and go through a bit of a crisis in the trailer, and maybe they go, oh, Burnham, we told you not to do that, and they'll either demote her or they'll, I don't know, try and strip her, and she'll go rogue or something, but she'll end up saving the day. And those admirals at the end,
season 4 Discovery, get it here.
Well done. That's exactly. I've just told you what's going to happen in season 4 of Discovery.
There we are, live, exclusive. But no, that makes. I mean, as a person that complains often about Burnham kind of doing her own thing, I've never complained about Picard or Kirk doing their own thing.
Exactly.
And I keep coming back to the fact that they are the captains, and so what you're talking about, how they kind of have a captain's prerogative. I feel like that justifies more of the kind of strange actions that they can take, and so I will be fine with Burnham doing whatever the hell she wants, considering now she's captain.
Well, it's like, I mean, it's the famous line, isn't it, in The Search for Spock? The answer is no. I am therefore going anyway. And the person that said no was essentially the head, the boss of Starfleet. So Kirk is told no, breaks the rules, but he does pay the consequences. He's demoted. I mean, it's not really a punishment, is it? Because he wanted to be a captain anyway. And he's
pleased with that.
The look on his face, he's not exactly like, oh no. He's like, yes, I go, and he gets a brand new ship, and I mean, he does save the planet, I guess. So there is that. But he did also destroy a planet.
Was it an important planet?
Nah, it was only Genesis, and the planet was pretty much doomed anyway, wasn't it?
The planet was going to kill itself, yeah, and he was only covering his son's mistake anyway. So
yeah. Protomatter, yeah, yeah, it's all cool. Lol, forget about it.
Talking about planets and taking it back to the topic at hand.
Oh yeah,
I've noticed that often Starfleet, and this is spanning over all of Star Trek. I've noticed that often Starfleet kind of comes in with its own set of rules and customs, and it wants these new planets to apply to them, and they judge them based on what they think kind of like their morality or their moral compass is. It's like if you want to join Starfleet, then it's not kind of like you have to follow our customs or our set of rules. And I guess it does make sense to some certain extent, but it's also kind of like, could the Klingons ever really join Starfleet if they continue on with their warlike ways? You know what I mean?
It's yeah. I mean, it's more like, could the Klingons officially join the Federation, and be part of that kind of core family, which They could. They could. I mean, it's always an interesting topic because I guess we just don't see kind of enough of it. There's always this feeling that the Federation, when you join, they have the charter. They do talk about that, so that would kind of include a set of laws and maybe not just laws, but also ideology, kind of, a set of ethical rules and things like that. And that's stuff that we see in the real world. I mean, we saw it with the EU, with legislation being written in Brussels and with the maybe the United Nations as well to another degree. I guess, I mean, that I guess you'd expect that from an interstellar organization like the Federation. I guess there would be this kind of agreement that, all right, well, you're coming into our family and our organization. We respect the uniqueness that you bring to us and the fact that we're better because you're with us. We're in we're together. We're stronger. But also, don't boil dogs and please don't sell people. So I guess I guess it's a bit of
I still
give and
think
push, give and go.
that line in Undiscovered Country, which I did in the chat earlier, is Homo sapiens only club. When it comes to Starfleet, it pretty much. I mean, it's Vulcan. I mean, okay, the Vulcans do what they do, and Starfleet say, okay, you are one of the founding members, we'll let you do that. But it is, new members, and it's, they come in there and they say, these are the rules. Well, what about our the planet themselves? What about our rules? What about our ways? And I think Starfleet, if anything, only plays lip service. I think what they did to Saru, Saru, they picked Saru up, he could never go back to his planet. How wrong is that? That's not right. If you want to go back to your planet, okay, because they're not part of the Federation, but you've let him become part of Starfleet. Surely, when he visits, he doesn't have to. It doesn't wear the Starfleet uniform. He doesn't do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of one-sided. It's like they're using Saru. They're using Saru to their advantage because they know that they can have a good officer out of him, but they're not letting him have anything back. They could let him go back to his planet. Well, everything has changed now, but they could have let him go back to his planet and just, say, don't talk about Starfleet.
Well, I just don't think that could have happened. It's a very similar situation with Saru to, was it Dr. Taylor? Is it Dr. Taylor? Catherine. Oh, God, I'm getting the names wrong, aren't I? The doctor, the marine biologist from Star Trek 4. Gillian, that's it. Yeah. Well, essentially, what she did is she made.
Well, she was displaced out of time, though.
Well, but she made the decision to do that. She decided that she didn't want to be in 1986 San Francisco anymore. She jumped on James T. Kirk mid-transporter beam and just went, this is me now. This is my life. And seemed pretty thrilled with that decision too. And good on her. She's off somewhere. I mean, she's probably responsible for cetacean ops as well. And good going, girl.
Don't say that. She'll get a spin-off now.
Well, she should. Everything should get a spin-off, guys. Come on. I think Saru is a very similar issue as well, because at the end of the day, he wanted off, didn't he? He wanted away from his planet and his way of life, and he was always looking towards the stars, and an opportunity arose where he could essentially leave, and the rest of the planet, the rest of the civilization wasn't there yet, and I feel like it was an individual decision. Starfleet, I can't quite remember exactly what happened in the Star Trek short. I've seen it once. But it's a one-off kind of thing. They're not just going to go, oh, we've got one of your own now. Let's just introduce ourselves to the planet. That's not really how it works. And at the same time, what's done is done. They can't just go, Saru, this is our secret. You can't tell anybody about us. We've also seen it in the episode First Contact as well, the TNG episode, where that doctor, she made the decision that she didn't want to stay with the rest of her people and she wanted to join the Enterprise and the Federation. And that government decided not to reveal the existence of extraterrestrials. So it's been done before.
I think I can see the comparison you say with Gillian and Saru, but the difference is Gillian was a human being in a planet full of human beings. Saru is on his own. he is a single person, whereas Gillian, she could walk down the street and nobody would be any the right wiser. But if Saru walks down the street, you're going to go, who the hell's that? Type thing. And we all know, I mean, to me, Saru's one of the best characters in Star Trek.
Well, I mean, if he's walking down the high street of Croydon in 2021, then yeah, people are probably going to go, "What is going on there?" But we forget that if he's
probably not. People will just assume that it's like a
if he's doing his
cosplay.
arm swing walk down the high street of Croydon in 2382, no one's going to bat an eyelid. People are so used to the concept of an interstellar multicultural society or interspecies society, whatever you want to call it, that it's just not really a thing. And Gillian, I mean, they are very similar. I mean, Gillian, yeah, she's a human, and she's not going to stand out. But again, in the future, no one cares because we don't care about that stuff anymore. It's just one of those things. We're all just different. And we celebrate the differences. She's still displaced. So when she goes to Croydon, 2290s probably for her, she's still going to be like, what the fuck? What is this? And everybody's just going to be walking around going, yeah, you're right. You're right, you're lost. So, do you want a map?
You need help getting back to station ops.
I hope Croydon's a thing in the future.
Really?
The silent but shocked really in the back.
There's a conversation.
It might have finally achieved garden town status maybe by the 24th century.
Oh, something severely needs to be done for that to happen.
Okay, I'm thinking Starfleet and the Federation are two kind of black and white when it comes to rules and regulations and to how they uphold them when they get to like different planets. I understand that they use their own design philosophy and architecture when they build like oh god damn it, what do they call them?
Like an outpost.
Yeah, an outpost. I was gonna say like an embassy or something. That makes sense because you're representing the Federation, you're representing Starfleet, you're representing who you are on said planet. But yeah, I feel like it's always very much if they're recruiting a new planet or they want to offer the possibility, it's kind of like, well, this is how we do things. Either you do them like us and you can join and it's all fine and dandy, or no, and we're just gonna kind of lock you out and consider you inhumane, and we're not going to talk to you. We're not going to trade with you.
Yeah.
I almost feel like sometimes planets get locked in like a little bubble of themselves because the Federation keeps spreading around them.
It's I mean, it's hard for me to kind of speak strongly on this because I mean it might be covered in beta canon, but it's not really kind of covered in enough detail in what we see on screen and in the movies. I guess, I mean, there are people online, we see it all the time, where people are like, the Federation, are they actually the bad guys? Essentially what they do is they just assimilate culture. And I think we hear Michael Eddington in Deep Space Nine say, you're no different from the Borg. Obviously, that's coming from the perspective of someone that is biased against the Federation, doesn't like the Federation, and feels that the Federation have let the Maquis down, let the demilitarized zone down. So there's some bias there. I guess, and again, I can't speak too strongly on it because I'm not entirely sure, what the reality of the situation is. I mean, don't forget, we were talking about a future organization that doesn't exist and is completely fictitious, but. I guess, I mean, you're right in saying, is there the potential for there to be some sort of lockout in the neighbouring star systems are all Federation member planets. Again, we saw it in First Contact when the TV episode, when the minister said to Picard, what if we say no? Then Picard says, then we'll leave and we won't return and we won't try this again. And I really felt that Picard truly meant what he was saying, and there was a lot of, he was being very earnest when he was saying that we will just go. I never really got the impression that Picard kind of was insinuating that there would be some sort of sanctions that would make life a bit more difficult just because they were, and don't forget, I mean, essentially the star system that planet is in, that's not Federation space. And, I guess that there would be a thing where should that planet eventually develop interstellar travel and start traveling through space and went through Federation space, I can't imagine that would be an issue. And by that time, perhaps their opinions had changed, and maybe they had entered into the Federation, or at least opened a dialogue with the Federation. So when people kind of go, oh, if you're not with us, you're kind of against us, I never really got that impression from the Federation. I'm sure such a large organisation that's, we can't even manage bloody local councils in the UK. I don't know how the Federation was able to organise multiple hundred planets and things like that. It just sounds awfully messy. And I'm sure there are people within the organisation who would, have, more negative kind of ideology and ideas as to what to do with planets that would say no. But I never really got the impression that a planet that entered into the Federation would be essentially just turn into just a Federation clone. And it's like when we talk real world about embassies, say if the UK have an embassy in Italy, that tiny plot of land, yes, is essentially UK territory, but it's in the middle of Italy, and it's not transforming the surrounding neighbourhood or the area into the UK. It's just a place that happens to be rooted in the middle of another country. So I would imagine the Federation having an embassy on, say, Setlik 4. Setlik 4 still has its own unique community. Its people are still able to go around their day-to-day life. The Federation just has a presence there.
Yeah, that's fair.
I wonder, I'm listening to what Michael's saying, I wonder if the best way of saying the way the Federation is mainly, and people are going to go, what is he talking about? You have the individual states that pretty much run themselves, but then you've got the federal government on top of that, and they just preach the laws and everything else. I'm wondering if that is what the people who wrote Gene Roddenberry, and they all sort of saying, okay, what the Federation, predominantly they're Americans anyway, but whether that's the way the Federation would act is, you have your planet, you run the planet your way, but we do have these edicts that you need to follow as well.
I see it as being exactly that, Triple C. I see a lot of similarities between like the EU and the Federation. In essentially the UK, while we were in the EU, we were still able to determine a number of laws that were central to the running of the country. But there would be, like you said, there would be edicts that would come from EU headquarters that would say, we'd like you to do this. And I do know, without, I don't know all of the ins and outs of our relationship with the EU, our formal relationship with the EU, is that we could essentially turn things down, we could take certain laws up, and I would imagine that would be almost exactly the same in the Star Trek universe. Setlik 4 has their own governing body that controls what happens on their planet or the surrounding neighbourhood, and the Federation would kind of say, we would like it if you do these things and these things. Also what we see in the Star Trek universe is we see this kind of, there's no Federation currency, and they always kind of flip-flop on if there is money in the Federation or not, and there does seem to be like a Federation kind of credit currency. I've never seen an instance where, and again this might be something that's covered in beta canon, I've never seen an instance where Federation have gone, right, Setlik, that currency that you have, Federation credits please. And again, very similar to the EU's Euro, is we had the option of having that currency, but we decided not to. So perhaps there are things that you can opt into as a member of the Federation.
I suppose it does come easier though when the Federation comes along and says you can use the Federation credit or not, but in any case we're going to be dumping a whole lot of matter synthesizers on your planet. You can create whatever the hell you want now.
But maybe that's put to them as an option. Maybe they go, we're going to introduce you to this, matter
Oh yeah, we don't want replicators, thank you.
Well, maybe.
Who would say that?
I mean, it could. I mean, we don't know. An alien civilization could be, well, it could be alien. They might have completely different customs. I mean, we look at the Klingons and we go, whoa, they sleep on metal beds and they like to, hurl things at each other and fight bears in their spare time. We look at that and we go, whoa. But there could be alien civilizations that are so alien, almost like Lovecraftian, that we just couldn't understand them. Obviously, I can't imagine they'd be joining the Federation in a hurry, because I can't imagine how those discussions would go. But it's, the alien civilizations could be like, well, we quite like the way we do things. We don't need replicators, thank you very much. Sod off. So there could just be a checklist of things that the Federation might go, as a Federation member, you get these perks. It's like the biggest Patreon kind of thing ever, isn't it? It's like, by giving us this, you get this. Get these exclusive perks.
Taking it back to what you said about the Klingons, the interesting thing is they like to eat a lot of meat, raw. They like to eat the animals still alive. And although the Vulcans are vegetarians, I'm assuming there's probably a lot of like vegan species or a lot of people that are vegan, like even humans in the future. You can't stop the Klingons from eating meat if they want to. But then you get this cultural thing where I'm like, would Starfleet tell them? Would the Federation tell them, look, you can't just eat the animal alive because that's not nice. You have to at least humanely slaughter it before. And then in their culture, the Klingons probably think it's disrespectful and it's a dishonor for the creature to be killed in advance. It's like, no. He must be eaten raw.
Well, we do have something similar here. We see the absolutely god awful rituals that certain communities in China subject dogs to. They have that awful festival, don't they? And it causes international outrage whenever you see it, and people from other countries fly over and try and buy the dogs and try and rescue those dogs before they're just put through just undescribable things. And again, an organization as large as the Federation, you have to imagine that there are activists and campaigners in the organization that would go, what is going on in the Kronos butchering district? We have got to go and sort that out. So you would have ideology clashes for sure. But again, looking at the real world stuff is as much as as much condemnation as those acts in China get, they still happen. So I would imagine that the Klingons would still get around and still hack up stuff and eat them. And it's having recently read the Catherine Janeway autobiography, which is a great read. Janeway describes her mother getting involved with like an interplanetary, interstellar Red Cross. And essentially the Federation would provide a lot of kind of outreach support for refugees, particularly in that story the Bajoran refugees through the Cardassian occupation. So if we look at our real world and we look at all of the wonderful charitable organisations that we have and organisations that are associated with things like the EU and the United Nations and all that kind of stuff, if you just take that and you put that on like an interstellar scale, an interplanetary scale, that stuff would all kind of exist in the Star Trek universe.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. I think what certain people probably blur, definitely with Star Trek, is the Federation and Starfleet are two completely different things. They also, because primarily we see it through the eyes of Starfleet because that's what Star Trek is. But I think that people do tend to think that they're one of the same.
That's a big complaint that I had for Discovery Season 3. But then it's so far in the future, and like I understood it at first that they were really mixing them up and that Starfleet and the Federation were the same thing. Then it was kind of clarified. I think that they still are two distinct bodies, but it's just that they're living all in that same kind of defense field because they're all reduced. Starfleet and the Federation have both been reduced so much, but it kind of felt like they were the same thing in Discovery Season 3.
I think hopefully we'll see a difference in Season 4 because obviously at the end of Season 3 they were going to go out and Navarre was going to come back and all those type of things. So maybe the Federation again will become the Federation, and then Starfleet. Okay, it's not the military arm, but Starfleet is Starfleet.
It's like the defense branch, isn't it?
Yeah, I always feel like in Star Trek, like, it's kind of down to the writing, and the writing at times over the years has kind of blurred the lines between what is the Federation and what is the Starfleet, and kind of where the purview kind of begins and ends for each organisation. And I honestly, I mean, this is just me. I've never really struggled to distinguish the two organisations. It's always been two separate organisations that just happen to work very, very closely together. And we've seen it before plenty of times. You know, the Federation president keeps counsel with Starfleet's, CIC and senior staff. It's just one of those things. They just keep close ties. And a big part of Starfleet and, the flagships kind of remits are to act as the, kind of a branch of the Federation's diplomatic kind of corps.
Would you call Starfleet the Federation's police force?
No.
When I quite
No?
like... Yeah, I quite like how Bruce Greenwood, Pike, describes them in 2009. He calls them a humanitarian peacekeeping armada. That's how I see Starfleet.
I prefer that description than to police.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're peacekeepers. But there are people within the organisation, like, again, I'm sticking with the Kelvin universe. Sorry, guys. You get Admiral, you get the Badmiral in Marcus in Into Darkness, who's just like, whoa, yeah, and yeah, you're just gonna get him, aren't you?
You can always, but you also have it in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah,
You have to say
Yeah, you do.
where the Admiral it happens, and with the changelings, and he basically tries to take over military rule.
Yeah, admirals suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you become an admiral. You become a horrible,
immediately become
despicable...
Oh, that's good.
Somebody's-
That's good. Everybody thinks I'm the Admiral now, so I just suck. Yay.
No. No. There's a difference. There's a difference. Triple C.
No, there's always the exception,
no,
because we had
I'm
Cromwell.
happy
Yeah,
with that. I could be a total tosser now, and that's it.
No, you're the Dadmiral. You're the Dadmiral. There's a difference. Vance is.
That's right.
Do you remember when
Everyone thought Vance was going to be evil. I thought he was going to be like the bad guy or whatever.
Yeah, I would have been so upset if he was though.
Yeah.
You can't have.
I actually thought Section 31 man Cronenberg was going to be the bad guy. Well, you forgot he existed.
No, I know. I love David. I love Space David Cronenberg, and it would have just been so easy to have had them just be bad. And also, I mean, Section 31. I mean, I know we're going off tangent here, but Section 31 as a concept in Star Trek is just so played out. It's like the Mirror Universe. Just stop it.
Yeah.
Go away for 20 years or something, and then come
Well,
back.
I think that's the good thing they've done in Discovery now, haven't they? They've done it that the universes are so wide apart that you can't breach it. That's why they used the Guardian of Time to go back in time for Giorgio to go back to the Mirror Universe. So hopefully now,
Yeah.
Discovery, they'll probably bring it in Strange New Worlds, and I hope not. But yeah, but that's with Discovery. Yeah, you're right. It is totally played out. It's a crutch that everybody goes on. Oh wait, we don't know what to do. Oh, let's do a Mirror Universe episode.
Going back to what we were talking about for Discovery Season 3 and the kind of blurring of the lines between the Federation and Starfleet, I have a question for you both. Do you think that Burnham, and by extension the Discovery crew, but primarily Burnham, do you think that she has been radicalized by the notion of the Federation? Because she looks at the Federation, she holds it in such high regard, she reveres the Federation, and it's almost treated like a religious kind of sect, religious organization. Like, she deifies it. Do you think that depiction of the Federation kind of goes a little bit overboard?
You could say the same about Kirk and Picard.
No, could you? Because I feel like Kirk.
Yeah.
I mean, when Kirk's introduced to the Federation in the Kelvin, he's like, "Bitch, I'll pass this in 3 years." In the original series, he's just employed, and he's just kind of, representing. Picard is a bit.
I don't think so, because Kirk has some. We talk about the Picard speeches a lot, but I think Kirk has some pretty damn good speeches in the original
Yeah.
series, and they're often very, very kind of fanatic, because he's talking about how not just the Federation or Starfleet, but also like how Earth did this and how Earth did that, and we've accomplished this, and then he kind of tells these other people like, but you're doing this and you're doing that. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's a thing. Maybe you have to kind of be radicalized to some certain extent to be that invested in Starfleet.
Yeah.
Because if to be a high-ranking officer in Starfleet, you have to believe in Starfleet so much, right? And then to want to be in Starfleet itself, you kind of have to believe in what the Federation is.
Yeah, I guess I mean, I do see that. I mean, we do get that in TNG with Picard. He's very kind of, he's so pro Federation. Not in the new series though. But we do. I just feel the words that Burnham and the crew of the Discovery used to describe the Federation. A lot of use of terms like faith. It feels to me like the Federation in the Discovery Trek that we get now is very much it's like a religious entity. It's spoken with so much reverence, and I
think that's a byproduct of the way that the show is written, because the show, like I feel like the show, like Discovery, is written in a way where it's I don't know how to put this. People that have been marginalized have always kind of connected with Star Trek and with the ideals that Starfleet and the Federation have pushed forward. But I feel like Discovery have really tried to kind of like lean into that a lot. And I'm not saying this in a negative way, I'm saying this in a positive way. They're really trying to shine the light or give light and give hope to people like from, I don't know, like LGBT communities, that kind of stuff. And so I feel like in the way that the show is written, they are trying to, like the show itself is trying to be a beacon of light and trying to show people like things can get better, things can become normalized, so to speak. And so that's where you're getting that kind of maybe intense faith kind of thing coming from.
I think we're more. We understand radicalization more than probably from the 60s and the 80s. When you thought of radicalization, you only thought of like terrorists and things like that. But now, the way Michael said it is you can see it, and I can actually see where he is coming from. That it's like it's a cult type feeling.
I feel like what it is, and I think I've kind of put my finger on it now, is I think this has always been a thing. This has always been how we exist as the human race, but now so more than ever, particularly with social media and our kind of digital connectivity being more intense than it ever has been before. We love to rally behind causes, and we love to feel that we belong. It's a very human attitude to have. We want to feel like we belong to part of something special, and that's always been something that we, as humans have had, like since the dawn of time. And it's always been something that has been prevalent in Star Trek, but now more so than ever. With online petitions being something that you can sign up to. You can change the world with a click of a button. And that's something that we've never been able to do before. And I feel like the writers of Star Trek write the Federation in that way, that it's this utopian, idealistic concept that is the culmination of all of those petition clicks. And it's the ultimate kind of family for everybody to feel safe in, and it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing, but I feel like over what's happened over the years is it's kind of turned into this kind of just this kind of deified kind of organized. I wouldn't say it's a cult, because I think cult has like so many negative connotations, but it's just the ultimate in kind of idealistic,
Yeah, do you think they're actually trying to distill the Gene Roddenberry vision into a purist type of form? Because I know, they very much, he was there in the 60s, and 60s is it's a totally different world to what we have today. Do you think that they are trying to distill it a little bit more in the purest bit with the inclusivity and?
It depends on the show, I guess. Because this Discovery, you could say that they're doing that. Something like Picard, they're doing the complete opposite. They're kind of like trying to deconstruct it, I guess, and show you that bad can be done. But then you have Lower Decks, where Mariner doesn't follow those. Well, she understands and respects and she values the ideals of the Federation and of Starfleet. But as she's shown Boimler multiple times throughout the series, sometimes she does her things her way. Kind of like what we were saying, Burnham does them her way as well. So Mariner does things her way because she thinks that, well, you know, these people on this planet, they need tools because they're poor, they need, and before the Federation can really get going and helping them, we need to give them the tools so that they can survive and so that we can help these people.
I do want to say as well, quickly, that, you know, Gene Roddenberry, you know, yes, the founder of Star Trek, came up with the original concept, but and this is you know, the United Federation of Planets was not created by Gene Roddenberry. It was created by Gene L. Kuhn. So this idea of an interstellar planetary government that, you know, we all aspire to be part of, you know, this core concept of Star Trek that we all know and love today, this thing that we all talk about in Discovery, and then at the end of the episodes they put Gene Roddenberry quotes over the end of them. You know, it's a Gene L. Kuhn creation, the United Federation of Planets, and it's a shame that we don't talk about the people that worked with Roddenberry who took the episode on after he burnt out after the first 7 episodes. I don't understand why we all forget that, but
I think that's down to Gene Roddenberry himself. You know, he was brilliant at taking other people's ideas and taking the credit for it. So
bit problematic.
Yeah.
There were, like, doing my rewatch of the original series, I'm only like 14 episodes in. There are already mentions, but nothing specific. Like, you know that Kirk, because even if we haven't had one of those passionate speeches, even if you know that they're working for some sort of space organization. And I can't remember what words they use specifically, but they use something to the effect of space organization. Well, it's nothing as precise as like the United Federation of Planets, but there's like kind of this idea that they're working for a greater thing in these early episodes. But no, we've never actually seen or heard of the Federation yet. The most we've seen is maybe like an admiral somewhere.
The things that Gene L. Kuhn was responsible for establishing the Star Trek universe, I got it here in front of me. He was responsible for the Klingons. He was responsible for the naming of the galactic governing body. So obviously there was something that Roddenberry had as well. There was a seed there, but Gene L. Kuhn named it the United Federation of Planets. That was named in the episode Arena. He came up with the concept of Starfleet Command. He came up with the Prime Directive. He introduced Zefram Cochrane, Khan, and the Augments, and like, so all of those things, you know, and also DC Fontana as well was responsible for creating so much, and things that just Roddenberry just took credit for. I'm not trying to demonize Gene Roddenberry. I mean, what he came up with is the core central themes, and it's the reason Star Trek exists.
Well, it was teamwork, wasn't it, back then, I think?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't
really
teamwork.
team
It was just Gene Roddenberry would say, "That's a great idea. I'll take credit for it." It's plain and simple. And everybody says it's the Albatross, and I'm with Michael on this one. It's, yes, he created Star Trek. He had the idea of Star Trek, but it is the likes of DC Fontana. It's Gene L. Kuhn that really made it into the Star Trek that we know today, and Gene Roddenberry took credit for that. You know, go on, Michael. Sorry.
Sorry, Triple C. Sorry, mate. It's so I wonder if there's somebody in the Federation who, whenever Setlick 3 eventually signs up for the Federation Charter, there's someone in the organisation that's like, yeah, that was my idea. I made that happen. And then in like Discovery's era, they're like, all hail the Gene.
Oh my god. Yeah, well, it kind of comes back to what you were saying before, though. People want to kind of like rally around something. People want to join around something. So you have this name. You don't look too much into it. It's just like, oh, this name, Gene Roddenberry. So everyone rallies behind it.
I wish people would read more.
But you need to compile a list. You need to compile a list of necessary readings for Star Trek fans. That's what you need.
Oh no, that's not my responsibility. I've only just read my first Star Trek book in like 15 years. But when it comes to actually kind of understanding, recognizing kind of the concept, the creation, the genesis of Star Trek, and recognizing, there's a video in this that I'm sure I'm going to make at some point, but kind of recognizing the myriad of talented creatives that were responsible for kind of coming up with, the concept of Star Trek, the thing that we're talking about right now, and I always find it so strange. There's a wonderful content creator on YouTube called Rowan J. Coleman.
Yeah.
And he did a video about it recently. And there's so many people that were responsible not only for the creation of Star Trek, but also its perseverance and its staying on the air and, growing into, because Star Trek died after 3 years. People were working behind the scenes to bring it back year after year after year.
I mean, it died a few times, didn't it?
Yeah,
at this point?
yeah. And there are so many people that I feel, don't get the credit. But we are, in our wonderful age of interconnectivity, we are, recognizing and celebrating those people more. So it's not like it's never going to happen.
I think the more we rewatch things and you see the credits and everything else, I think people are saying, "Oh, that's Gene L. Coon again." It's Gene L. DC Fontana. I think people are realising
names pop up.
These names are popping up all the time. And they're thinking, "Okay, it's not one man's vision. It's it's a whole range of people that have
it's a federation.
It's a federation. It's a federation, yeah. And he's the president and taking all the credit. But don't get me wrong, I am not anti-Gene Roddenberry. I'm just anti that everybody thinks that he did everything, because he didn't.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I suppose, like, without being against him, it's kind of like frustrating to some certain extent.
Yeah, because people should get their own credit for what they did. Unfortunately, like the likes of the people are not alive today to be able to receive that credit, but posthumously they're getting it.
I think it's just the age-old saying, isn't it? History is written by the victors. And I mean, we even saw that to a degree in Discovery's third season, where a lot of our history had been lost and torn up and rewritten, and subject to bias. And
that was in
it's
that
just
the
one of those
Voyager
things that
episode too,
happens.
when
and
Doctor wakes up.
Living witness, yeah.
So conclusion is, you guys firmly believe that the Federation and Starfleet do a good job at respecting alien cultures. You guys think?
I'm on the fence, because I think in some respects they do, in other respects they don't.
I feel like. Oh, sorry.
No, go on. No, it's okay.
I feel like it's like I said earlier at the start. It's hard because there's so many kind of unknowns and variables. I feel like what we see on screen depicts the Federation in a decent, if somewhat complicated light. I mean, they're going to be perceived by external organisations and forces as being the bad guys. I truly believe that the Dominion thought what they were doing was right, probably up until the end, when the founder just goes, "Well, let's just decimate Cardassia." That's a dick move. But in the beginning, they saw themselves as the oppressed and the Federation as the aggressors.
Well, they had a long history in the Gamma Quadrant too.
Yeah, but
in the beginning they were oppressed, and so they kind of grew into like this defense force of their own, dare I say.
Absolutely, and I guess that's the danger of essentially just beating down and oppressing an entire race for so long, is eventually they will fight back, and that happened with the founders, and that was the birth of the Dominion, and it caused a lot of problems for a lot of people. But I think the Federation, for the most part, the organisation that we see, they seem to do a fairly decent job. But like anything in the universe, whether it's real or fictitious, as we can always learn and we can always do a bit better.
Indeed. So it really comes down to how they depicted the rare instances that we see, I guess, on screen. They are depicted well enough in their respective alien cultures. There's a few exceptions that are made by our hero characters, where they go against alien customs, alien cultures, but at the end, it's always to save the day, or to resolve the mystery. So it's celebrated. All right, we're about an hour in, and I gotta go.
Go.
No, this is what happens when you're gonna live it soon, Mr. TrekLad.
Oh yeah, I do.
When you have a baby, sometimes you just have to go. You have to disappear and
Go.
take care of them.
Disappear.
Parent
Do
duties.
what needs to be done, Trek Dad.
TrekDad. No, that's you.
That's your
You're
dad.
TrekDad.
That's your dad, Michael. Your dad's Trek
Yeah,
Dad.
I'm dad on the tube. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me. This was a blast. Thank you to everyone who listened, and live long and prosper.
Bye, guys.